As we come to look at Celtic Advent again, day 5 is in this particular series through 40 days, is the final day that is headlined preparation. And then we'll have 10 days looking at the incarnation, another 10 days looking at the second coming, another 10 days looking at Jesus coming in us, and then the final 5 days we just have a celebration of Christmas itself. So this is the final day looking at preparation in particular. And today we're going to be going back to that beautiful picture that we saw yesterday of the high row pages out of the Gospels that were illuminated by the monks in 700 AD or so, from the Lindisfarne Gospels and the Book of Kells. And if you look particularly at one of the pages just at the head of at the beginning of Matthew, then you have this amazing artwork, and then immediately following it, as you start reading the book of Matthew, and we'll read a section of that later on, you start to have the genealogy of Jesus. So it lists one after another of the line in which Jesus was born. And it's almost as though this beautiful Chi-Rho picture, image of Chi-Rho being the symbol for Christ, Christus. And it was the symbol that lots of Christians would use in the early church. So it's almost as though you have this juxtaposition of the beauty and the glory and the majesty that's captured in the artwork of the Chi-Rho itself. And then just down in very plain writing towards the bottom of the page, some of the words and some of the names that come out of the line of genealogy. And it really almost shows this movement from Jesus being the cosmic Christ in all of his glory in the eternal ages, being born into this very simple, very plain human line. But of course it does go on to list all the aspects of Jesus' line. So there's something very specific and very precious about the fact that he wanted to own his humanity as much as he owned his divinity. Ancestry is interesting and important. I don't know if you come from a particularly important line yourself. Probably not, most of us don't. Some of them ancient saints, the Celtic saints, did come from important lines. So Columba was part of a line of kings in Ireland, and Hilda, who was one of the amazing ladies who ran a double monastery in Whitby, so men and women both in that monastery, and she came from a line of royalty in East Anglia. So she spent her life in two parts really. The first half of it, she was a princess in East Anglia, and then afterwards she was a nun and the bride of Christ. So she dedicated herself to Jesus in that way. We may not have that kind of lineage, but what we do have is the spiritual inheritance that comes from being part of the line of Christ. Just as we move into contemplation, we're going to look at that image again that we were looking at yesterday. So this time, instead of just focusing on the illuminated letters at the top, draw your contemplations from them towards the words at the bottom of the page. Once again, allow your imagination to feel what it may have been like for the cosmic Christ to flow into human form from the supernatural realm. Focus this time on the humanity of Christ, on becoming small, dwelling in the womb of Mary, and growing into the next person who would be born into this ancestral line. Think also of those of your own spiritual heritage. Who in that ancestral line inspires you? We'll read a section from Matthew chapter 1. I'm not going to read the entire genealogy, it's quite long. An account of the genealogy of Jesus the Messiah, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Abraham was the father of Isaac, and Isaac the father of Jacob, and Jacob the father of Judah and his brothers. And then a number of other generations before it comes to, and Salmon, the father of Boaz by Rahab, and Boaz the father of Obed by Ruth, and Obed the father of Jesse, and Jesse the father of King David. And following that, there's quite a number of generations before it finally arrives at, and Jacob, the father of Joseph, the husband of Mary, of whom Jesus was born, who is called the Messiah. So all the generations from Abraham to David are 14 generations, and from David to the deportation to Babylon, 14 generations, and from the deportation to Babylon to the Messiah, 14 generations. Let's close with a prayer. Cosmic Christ, as I prepare to enter the story of your incarnation, help me to draw to mind those of my own spiritual heritage who inspire me. Thank you for the lives which have been lived for you in the past, and may I live a life of inspiration to others. Amen.